Welcome to The Mix, a fusion dance podcast where we dive into the world of blending dances and all that comes with it. We're talking about everything from the highs of nailing that perfect combo to the lows, emotional, and mental challenges and more. And if you're new to the dance scene, don't worry, we've got you covered with practical tips to help get you started, feel comfortable, and most importantly, have fun. So come on in. We can't wait to dance with you.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to The Mix. This is a fusion dance podcast, and today we have a wonderful subject with amazing people. I'm going to say, first and foremost, thank you guys for showing up. Second of all, welcome back, David. And third, Peter and Arhelia, the powerhouse couple joining us today. Can you please let the folks know who you are, what you're about, and why they need to be listening in with intent to today's episode?
We actually just started Fusion, last January?
Yeah, we're pretty new to Fusion. Fusion. We were salsa bachata more than anything.
We met salsa bachata, and I come from the ballroom world, and she comes from...
I come from flamenco and tap and a lot more of the rhythmic dances, and so I'm new to the ballroom per se. Well, partner dancing, I think I'm pretty new because I tend to dance solo. So
Yeah. And we were navigating actually this weekend, funny enough, because this topic is coming up. We're kind of talking about this whole idea of dancing with your significant other,
and insecurities and just the different emotions you have to navigate. So yeah, we're right on topic.
Yeah, we are ready for this. So
we are excited.
We're ready for you guys.
What I love about today's episode is we have a little mixed variety of everyone here and their, I guess, situation or the status, right? But I want to kind of start off with, there might be a misconception for maybe even non-dancers listening in. What's a misconception people have about falling in love on the dance floor that you guys might want to set straight?
Falling in love on it. I mean, I don't think we fell in love on the dance floor. I think we connected and I was like, cool, he's got a good vibe.
Love that.
And we danced well together, so there was definitely a good vibe, and he sought me out again to dance a second time. So I think it
was easy. It was easy. There's when you connect with someone and you're able to move together easily, where it's not like a struggle, then you know that you're speaking the same language, same dance language, right? It's like any dialect of a speaking language.
Like we knew we thought each other was cool, but it definitely wasn't. It was a slower burn. Well, not slow. We know that night, but yes, we fell in love pretty quickly because we were dancing together, and I think you break that touch barrier like pretty quickly.
Do you think that dance chemistry translates to romantic chemistry, or are those two things totally different?
They're definitely related. There's definitely a relatedness, right? It's part of the human nature, going back as far back as we go, right? It's like dancing around the fire camp and doing our thing, right? That's just part of it, and there's also other aspects of it too. So there's two different orbits that sometimes can overlap.
I think what it comes down to is like the choice that you make about that connection, like, because the connection can mean anything. A strong connection can simply mean that you relate well, but it doesn't have to mean that it's romantic. That's a choice that you get to make together as you get to know each other, and from there it kind of turns into whatever it wants to be. Like I've gained several female friends from the dance community, and it's been a really wonderful addition to my life. And I've gained that from just having strong connections with a lot of the follows, since a lot of that's like male, female. And but not all, some of that has been romantic, some of it not. It just depended on what made sense and what I was feeling, and I assume whatever they were feeling. So it's a choice.
No, I agree 100%. I think it is a choice. I think a lot of people confuse a strong feeling for someone as a romantic, and I've learned to differentiate those. And just because I became a single mom and I was dating, and I realized I needed to differentiate when I wanted more and when I wanted less,
Right.
and I had to be very clear. So when I dance, I think you do, when you vibe with someone, you can easily go, oh, I can take this next step with this person.
Right.
Because we're vibing there, or I cannot. And so usually, like with Peter, we took steps outside of the dance floor that brought us to that, but not on the dance floor. It's like, oh,
well, dance floor was our initial conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's like walking up to a girl at the bar and saying, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Right. It's just a little bit more nuanced than that. I mean,
but it's a choice. It's a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice to
take it off the dance
take
floor.
it further. Yeah.
Right. That actually relates to something that I've been thinking about, like dating in the dancing community. And I feel like in a lot of ways you almost don't need to date, because you're having like a very close relationship with a lot of people, and you're learning about them. If you actually, like, I talk with a lot of people and I learn about them, and that's kind of the point of dating, is to like learn about this person and if you want to be around them or not. So you, in a way, save yourself a lot of time on going on dates. You're just meeting people and learning about them, and it kind of forces you to focus more on the friendship, which is better anyways. And then from there, again, like, it goes back to you making the choice to turn it into something or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can,
Yeah.
if you're dancing with so many people, it makes it easier to access that without seeing it as like a date. You're just getting to know somebody through movement.
And I think that's a misconception people, non-dancers might, when they see performances, they're like, how do these two strangers that got paired up not fall in love? And you're like, it's a performance.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. A lot of times it's like when the dance is over, the performance is over. But it's funny because you guys are talking about like all this, like all this, the romance and dating. And I'm like, I dance with Kaylin. And afterwards I'm like, bye, bro.
Right. It's like, peace. All right. I'm gonna go over there across the room now.
Next.
I this is making me realize that I have a different experience, because so two of my exes I have met dancing, and I was able to read like the situation and the connection, and it happened on the dance floor with both of them. So that it's not like it doesn't happen, but
Yeah.
I knew, I don't know why I knew, but I knew that like whatever happened, like whether it was a kiss or whatever, that was wanted. And that's like such a rare thing to happen. Like it's an unbelievable, I can't even believe that it happened twice to me, to be honest. So it's not like this stuff can't happen. It's just, there is almost a fantasy around it, like that you might get caught up in, and you really just have to read the body language, and even better yet, maybe just ask, and then you can kind of understand, like, are they feeling the same thing that I'm feeling? I got lucky that both of them were mutually feeling the same thing, but it just as easily could have been something I was misreading. So it just depends.
Do you think there's a unique vulnerability in dating someone you dance with versus a non-dancer?
Oh, definitely.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good question.
One of the big things I hear so often about people that date non-dancers is they don't understand, like, dancing with so many people, and especially on a physical level, doesn't necessarily mean like you love them or are like having some kind of romantic connection with them in any way. But it's such a different display of affection that it's easy to be misunderstood.
Yeah. I also see how from the outside looking in, you can get that idea of like, oh, they must be in love. Like for me, when I first got into social dance, especially like salsa and bachata, I was like, oh, okay. And I was dating a dancer at the time. That was kind of my entry point. So I was like, oh, okay, this is how I'm seeing this. This is how I'm viewing it. And kind of after that, I was like, oh, I don't know if dating a dancer is a thing that I want to do. So I like from
That's
kind
challenges.
It was for me personally. I was like, I don't, I especially because there's the whole like, oh, like what if you're there and you see them in the corner and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm gonna just say I don't need that in my life. I'm good. I want to come here. I want to have a good time, say what's up to the people, have great dances, peace out. So for me, I definitely enjoy being able to have all these conversations because I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories, and I feel like there's an honesty in dance that like you can't hide behind a mask. You can try to put on, but like people can tell. And when you're able to get to a point of comfortability where you're just having an honest conversation, like I think the level of I think there's a reason why you see the dance community get so close knit so quick.
Yeah.
And I think it is because of that honesty. So I'm all here for the conversation. I'm like, man, this is dope. But I'm also like, hey, like, let me go over here, you know what I'm saying, by the fan and chill out. I'm trying to make sure that I don't send out the wrong kind of signals, especially because, because my girlfriend, she doesn't dance. And I'm like, I also want to be honoring and intentional about not betraying the trust that that she's put in me.
What steps do you take to not send the wrong signal to a follow you're dancing with?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Kaylin, you should
Yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, I just, it's funny. I just took it off, but actually Trang had a dope idea and she's like, you should wear a ring. And I'm like, that was a great idea. Granted, I didn't have a ring sizer for a minute, so she just brings one in because she literally has like I don't know how she does it, but she like has everything. If you need something, like ask Trang, she's the hookup for real.
I know.
And
when I
so
whip out the ring sizer, I say, does anyone want to know what the ring size is? They're like, why do you have that? I'm like, let me tell you a story.
It doesn't always deter people, though. I find a ring is a challenge for some women.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I also try to be very clear. Like, I'm just like casual, but also like, yeah. So my girlfriend.
Also, how the dance is done as well, right? Because there's still those slow parts, and then those fast parts. But it's how you position yourself in such a way that things don't accidentally happen, right? Because you are dancing pretty close, so there is always a risk for a swipe here or a swipe there,
right?
But being able to position and having that connection, right?
Yeah.
It always goes back. It goes back to that connection, right? Because if you have good dance connection, you both are very aware of everything else that's going on beyond just the dancing, right? If you're a good dancer, you're not really thinking about steps and stuff. You're thinking, okay, I'm keeping a certain distance from the top part or the bottom part, or maybe you're doing like a little leg thing, right? But there's that intentionality that can come with that, or without that, right? So it's you can escalate it or you can de-escalate it, right?
Like when you're there, when you're at that place, and you're like, okay, do I press into this or do I?
Yeah, and accidents do happen, and you can always just be like, that was not intentional. I like just so they don't think you're like groping them or something.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that.
But honestly, I feel like a lot of them you're usually aware of, like they know that you're not trying to do that intentionally. So
I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Face, like,
I'm just like, my hands back up, like, yeah. I think I've also been on the receiving end, unfortunately, and it's always it's interesting because I don't think I try to assume like the best of intent from people, try to assume that like, hey, it's an honest mistake and things happen. And there have been very, very, when I say very few, there have been very few like situations where I've needed to be like clear, like, hey, no, stop.
Time out.
Like, how have you set that boundary?
Oh, directly. I'm just like, hey, yeah, this can't happen. Like, I mean, like that is like
versus just like physically pulling away from it, or
like, because I don't want to. I'm not big on embarrassing people, and I don't. There was like one situation in particular where we were dancing, and I think it was just like the nature of the song, and maybe the person got swept up in it. But this was someone who I knew, and they knew I was in a relationship, and they like they knew all these things, and I think they had that mentality of like, just because there's a goalie doesn't mean that they can't score. And there was a moment they tried something where it was like it was very clear what they were doing and what they were trying to do, and I like physically pulled back and like stopped the dance. I didn't say anything, but I stopped the dance, and I gave a look. It was like a good like 3-4 second like pause. That was like, this is not like, and I know I like no, and then I continue because I was like, I don't want to draw attention where other people are like,
you stopped and directly called it out, and really directly communicated, which is great.
And like by the end of the night, like they came up to me and they were like, hey, I'm super sorry. And I was like, honestly, like,
especially if they apologized about it.
Yeah, like they apologized after, which I was like, hey, look, just don't let it happen again, right? But
part of this is like honoring that people can feel what they feel, and all you're doing is making it clear that you can't reciprocate whatever it is they're offering.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
like a big deal as long as they're respecting that also.
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to just like I just like leave. Like I just walk off the dance floor. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to do that to somebody. But
Yeah. Trey, I'm curious what you would do in a similar situation.
I wish I had some other people on this call actually, because so far I've heard stories where people were like, oh, maybe someone tried to like touch my hair or something like that. You know, when sometimes it's a slow song and maybe you want to get into character or something like that. But
Mhm.
I don't know, Arcalia, if you feel this way, but there's people that maybe touch in ways where it feels like it's respectful, but they're getting into character maybe. But then there's other ones where you're like, this feels a little bit off, even though it's a slow song and maybe you're trying to put a creative twist to it. For me, I haven't had any experiences that made me feel uncomfortable. So I don't know if I just have luck on my side or if I give off a certain vibe, you know.
In terms of like people crossing boundaries with me, I also am someone who has a high touch
Tolerance.
I can be touched a lot without feeling uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And it's due to my experience with theater and dance. And I'm used to being, in a classroom, and I made out in different scenes with people. So I had to get over the touch. So it takes a lot for me to feel uncomfortable. And I have had people like, you feel their genitals on your leg. And that was the only thing I experienced, where other people were in the dance community were like, oh, this wasn't right. And I was like, oh, I felt it, but he didn't do anything other than that. And I didn't see, it wasn't like he was grinding on me, so I noticed my level of uncomfortable was like, oh, he's fine. He was awkward and kind of nerdy, and I like nerdy, but he was just an awkward kind of guy. And like the way he would position himself wasn't very comfortable. So I could see how
Right.
people,
Positioning. Right?
yeah, his positioning was off. I didn't take it as him being like, oh, I'm gonna grind on you, but others did. And I just realized I have a very high tolerance for touch. And so you really have to be like, for me to be like, and no. And I'm very direct. I understand the power of sexuality and the power of female sexuality, and when to turn it on and when to turn it off. So I feel like I'm very
Right.
clear, because
That's
I've
good.
been in situations where people are unclear, and I'm like always
Can you
super clear.
Can you expand on that when you say turn it on, turn it off? Is it like when the song is over, you turn it off and switch back to like non-dancing Arcalia?
Yeah, not even the song, like even during the song, my vibe of my sexual, like me putting like, I don't really tap into that sexy when I'm dancing, me personally, unless I'm dancing with Peter.
Right.
So with Peter, I turn on the sexual part of me a lot more. And when I'm dancing with others, I can get into the sensual. I know how to separate the sensuality and the feeling myself, rather than I am throwing this energy at you. And that's because I'm very sensitive to energies with all the theater experience that I've had. And I've been in situations where people weren't clear about that. And young girls and young men, they mistake that. They don't know how. They go, oh, that person is. Young girls don't know that they're doing that. They have a strong set. They're exploring their sexuality. They're just throwing it out there. And so guys are like, oh, she's into me. And then they're like, he's a creep. And I'm like, ah, you were kind of really throwing it at him and you didn't realize you were throwing it. I'm very like, hey, I'm like, peace out. Yeah, I'm a bud person. You're like, hey, bud, like, and even like me and David, we've had dances where they're very sensual. We get very, and we're doing a lot of contact.
But I've always felt like I understood where the line would end, and I never felt the need to go past that. But I agree that I have felt a strong connection with you when you dance, or when we dance.
Yeah.
But I always understood that there was a line there, and I didn't have any problem respecting that. You feel, and I can see there's a lot of trust between the two of you, and I think that's the other kind of beautiful thing that can come with being like a dance couple, is you have that like understanding of what these things mean to you and each other, and you have trust in each other in that, which is awesome.
Yeah. And when we understand that we're not here to, he's allowed to think someone's cute and pretty.
Yes, that's so important.
And I'm allowed to think someone's cute and good looking. And we'll be like, oh, that was a good dance. That was a good looking guy.
You don't
we're
turn into
very
a robot after you start a relationship. Like you have emotions and feelings, and you can respond to people. Like, and this goes back to that's why this is a choice. You're
Yes.
like any relationship, even friendships are a choice.
And funny thing, when we first started dating, we would go salsa because we met salsa dancing, like we said. And when we first started dating, we just naturally would go dancing and only dance with each other because we were like in that really
Yeah.
romantic, just us phase.
Yes. I
And
had
little
that
by
with
little,
yeah.
little
My
by
partner.
little, we were like, oh, we're bored. Like, oh, let's just go home and snuggle. Like, and so we started getting
Right.
bored
Oh,
in
yeah.
the dance community. And I was like, you know what? I think you have to go back to dancing aggressively with other people because that's what makes it fun is meeting different personalities and having those
Right.
flirtations and just that exchange of energy. And
It
yeah,
is.
we made an effort to be like, okay, we got to dance with other people. It's not just you know, and some people stop dancing because the partners want each other to not dance with anybody else because they can't handle it. And I was like, well, we
Which
love
is
to.
really sad.
Yeah, it's really sad.
And that's where it's hard for people with non-dancer relationships because non-dancers don't understand
Yeah.
any of
Right.
this, right? Like when we're talking
Right.
about energies and this and that, they're like, what are you talking about?
Well-
But it really just takes dancers to know. And going back to the misconceptions, it's like a whole different conversation that nobody else but you two are having, right? It's like a non-verbal, like it's just a conversation, and it's unique, and it's hard to explain.
It is. I always feel like I learn who I connect well with just from the dance because I can feel if they're receptive to my energy, which tends to be a little more chaotic when I'm dancing, and people either like that or they don't, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But I can pick up on that pretty quickly based on at least how I'm reading their energy. And sometimes I might be reading too far into it because I've had other people who I am now friends with who I definitely was misreading the connection. So it just depends. But you can learn a lot from somebody just by dancing with them. Like, whether you vibe well or you don't, then
you guys
want to go from that.
You guys touched upon this a little bit earlier, just a little snippet, but this is a debate that I've had or a debate question I've had with people, but the challenges of dating someone in the same dance community. Do you do it or do you not?
We made a choice to come into it because we were in the salsa world, bachata. We didn't really find a community yet until we started.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a lot of salsa places and bachata places in LA. And so let's say I was dating someone there, I could kind of avoid him if things were to go south because there's just so many different venues.
For the record, like I've seen people who were, like leaders in the community and, like very big contributors. And when things went south, essentially the community dissolved. And I think that's why I would lean more so towards avoid, especially because like in like just with that, some people aren't willing to resolve things amicably. They're not trying to like have a conversation and talk it out and say, okay, like if this goes south, what do we do? And some people will, kind of lean into well, these are my friends. I was here first, or this thing and that thing. And that's essentially like what happened in those situations. It was, and I'll also be fair and say like there have been others where like, things didn't work out and it was fine. They were, I'd say they were mature about it, talked it out, set boundaries, all that good stuff. But yeah, people sometimes are a little messy. And even then when it gets into, sometimes it can get into things like, he said, she said, and then that can become a whole thing because it's like, oh, well, if this is true, this person is that. And then, and then it comes out later what the truth really is. But by that point, the damage was already done. So yeah, it can be really messy. I mean, anything could be messy, right? But yeah, I lean more so towards the side of like, hey, take that outside. We're here to dance, right? I'm here to dance. Don't ruin it for me. I'm a little selfish when it comes to this. Right?
But also that comes back to, right, if two really good dancers dance together, there's that chemistry that can show up. So it's messy in one way, cleaner in another. It's interesting.
I think you have to be mature. I think
Yeah,
it
I
takes a little
agree.
maturity to
Yes.
date dancers in the same community.
Yeah.
And you have to be smart about it because you can lose your comfort in that community if you don't end things correctly with someone.
Right.
You do them dirty if they do you dirty, and it's like you have to, we do a lot of communicating with dancing, so I think we have to be very clear about our intentions and what we intend with people, and it's just being honest, right? If you don't want
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
you want to date multiple people, then tell someone that that's what you're doing. Hey, I'm dating a lot of people, do you want to date me too? But people don't want to be that honest because it limits how many people get involved with you.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how receptive some people are when you are just completely clear with them about your intent. And it just, I'll keep it vague just for my own privacy, but like I've had experiences where it was totally fine and it never felt like we needed to comment on it. And we're still just friends, but in the same community. And there was intimacy and other things, but we were clear with what we wanted. And I didn't feel stressed about it. I don't think they did either. And we understand, but there was clear communication. We were mature about it. And I've had that with a few other people. And it's like, if it's not as complicated as it might seem, you just have to be honest, like you're saying.
Yeah.
You're adults, you're communicating. And as long as you understand, then there's no problem.
Yeah.
But once things turn into like you're, being shady about it or like trying to make assumptions, that's where this can get kind of less clean.
Or you have a lot of triggers.
Right. Right.
I've had people tell me, don't do it. Don't.
And honestly, they're not wrong because you can have bad experiences from it. It's completely possible.
Someone did give a good, I guess, tip or just their, I guess, opinion was saying like they've seen it work. They've seen a lot of messiness happen in the same community where, people can, at the end of the day, people are human, I guess, and some people are messy and they cheat and all that kind of stuff. And it gets, but he did say like he's seen a couple where like one was mainly like in salsa, like that was their home, that was their dance, and then someone else was in swing. So it's kind of like they were both dancers, but let's say like their home base were in two different areas. And so when it split, it wasn't like they saw each other all the time or triggered all the time. It was easier that way. So that was a interesting point. So I want to ask now, it's going to be all about you, Kaylin, because you are the only one here that is dating someone that does not dance. What would you say are the pros and cons to dating a non-dancer? Someone that doesn't really share the same hobby that you're so passionate about.
Yeah. I think it works because of our dynamic, and I mean we're two different people, and there's a lot that we align on. But like she needs her time to be by herself. Like she needs her like, I'm here, I'm reading a book, or I'm watching a movie, and I'm by myself, and it's
I've
just
had
me. Like
enough
she
Kaylin
needs
already.
that. Like it's like he's loud and he's just he's always doing something. He can't sit still, and I just need to breathe.
Yeah,
so like please
really
go
important.
somewhere. No, but it's like, I'm thankful that we have the honesty and the trust to say, okay, I'm gonna go do my thing, or I need time to do my
That's
thing.
awesome.
And that I think that's a benefit because I don't feel bad because I need a recharge. I don't feel bad because I'm like, oh, I haven't seen people, I haven't gone out, I haven't done something, and I need to go. And I think that's a benefit. And while I think earlier on I had a hard time because I was like, oh, this is amazing, I love it, therefore you should love it too. Come with me, I think her honesty and also like kind of sitting in, I guess more so compassion rather than assumption, and understanding like this is draining for her. The way that it refills me is taking from her, and
it's not the same experience.
We're just like, I'm like, oh, tonight was amazing, the music was great. She's like, it was loud and people stink and like this, and I was like, okay, like like I'm like, yeah, sometimes true, but but yeah, we have two different takes. We have two different experiences. We're two different people, and it's okay to have those, like it's okay to not align on everything. Like I think peanut butter is great. She doesn't like peanut butter. I shouldn't force her or try to sneak peanut butter into her food, just because I love it and I think it's great.
Well, it's like just because you guys connect with the world around you in different ways doesn't mean that you two individually can't connect together.
Yeah. And like we have our things that we sync up on, like there are things that we do love and that we enjoy together. But we also have our things where, like that's it. Like I'm not super big on shopping. That's not really my thing. But she's like, oh, I love it. Like just going out and like looking at this
Shopping's
stuff and
fun.
that thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's for me. I'm like, okay, but like, what can I do with it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, can I climb it? Right? Can I jump off of it? Can I lift it? No, I can't. Then I don't see the appeal. You know. But but again, we are two different people. So I think knowing that, recognizing that is super important. But yeah,
It is.
it's a bit
What
of
do you
awesome.
what do you recommend for couples that are in a similar situation as you, where, hey, I'm gonna go tonight for 4 hours dancing with random strangers? How do you have that conversation to build the trust?
Yeah, you gotta have the conversation. We had to figure out early on, like, if this was something that we wanted to do, and then if so, what do we need? Like, what are our essentials? And we've both been in relationships previous where the person wasn't faithful, and so trust was something we were like, well, how do we establish trust? How do we build that up, and how do we maintain communication? Like for me, I kind of have this attitude of like, if somebody wants to do something, they're going to do it, and you can't stop them. Even if you might want to, you might try. So I'm going to trust, assuming the best, and if it doesn't work out for me, okay, and then that's where like I'm going to respond and tell. Like if you prove yourself untrustworthy, I'm going to respond that way, um and so yeah, I mean, like developing and being honest. I mean, there's still times where she's like, hey, like I want to spend more time with you. I feel like we haven't spent enough time, and like, and I'm like, okay, cool. That means I need to dial it back on Kaylin things and be more intentional
It
about
also
like
means
showing up.
it also means she feels safe enough to tell you that she's
Yeah,
feeling that and is wanting more connection with you, which is
yeah.
important.
And the way that she feels connection might be different than the way that I feel connection. So
Right.
like for me, I'm like, what do you mean? We just spent the last 5 days together. Like, what are you
Right.
talking about? Like,
I want
we're
more.
right here.
And everyone has different needs as what fills their
Mhm.
cup. And yeah, like so you might have yours filled, but she was like, oh, I could
Yeah.
use a little bit more.
We dance together, but I definitely have the vibes where I'm like, okay, we go dance together.
Mhm.
Sometimes for me, that's not quality time because
Yeah.
I don't see him on the dance floor. I'm dancing with everybody
Right.
else but
Yeah.
him, and I gotta share him. So
Mhm.
sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go dancing. I want to do something with you that's not dancing. And Peter can literally be happy going dancing every night. Like
Yeah.
it just fills his cup 100%.
Cup that
So
overfloweth.
yeah, he loves it, but he understands when I'm like, I want some more connection, some quality time with
Mhm.
you and nobody else. And
Yeah.
and because we do live together and we've been together for a long time, you can confuse some of the times where you're just cooking or doing regular things as quality time. And I'm like, no, I want quality time that isn't chores and that is not
Right.
listen,
Yeah.
paying bills. And I'm like, no, that wasn't quality. I saw you all week, but that wasn't the way I wanted to see you.
Right.
And it's funny too, right? Because non-dancer couples, where they're not dancers, right? Like a dinner and dancing sounds like, the dream date, right? But for
It
us,
is
it's
nice.
the dancing part is another day at the office. You
Right.
go in.
Me too. It's
Oh,
like
for sure.
it's fun to come home and be like, oh, we had such good dances. We danced so
Mhm.
well together. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's what we need, but I definitely am the one requesting, like, can we not go today? Because I just want you to myself.
Mhm.
I'm feeling selfish and I don't want to share you.
That's awesome.
There was a quick something you said reminded me of this moment where I was we did this sort of like this like salsa night at my church, and I was like leading it, so I'm kind of just like on go the whole time, and so my girlfriend, she's there, and some other people are there too, but she has some experience, so I was like, hey, if you're basic, like you have no experience at all, okay, we have no expectation. But if you have a little bit, we kind of need you to lead a little bit because the dynamic is a little off. So, she steps up, and by the end of the night, she was having a lot of fun. And she's like, wow, like this is like I kind of get it. And so on the drive back home, she's like telling me all about these different dances she had and like the different like she's like, oh, and leading this person versus this one. And I felt like this one was fighting me. And like I was just like, why are you fighting me? I'm trying to lead. I can't lead. And I was like, yes, like yes. So we had this moment. She was like by the end of that, it was like, I don't fully understand it, but I get it. I get why this appeals to you. And that was such a cool moment for me because I was like, yeah, like there are all these experiences that I can try to relate to something that you've experienced, but until you do it, like you don't necessarily get it. You don't resonate with it the same way. And that was one of those moments where I really felt like I felt closer. I felt like seen in some ways because she's like, yeah, like why is she fighting me the whole time? I'm trying to help her. I'm trying, and I was like, ah, yes.
Yeah, and now she understands when you go home, you're like, I had a dope ass dance with so and so, and it won't be taken the wrong way. Like, oh, you enjoyed dancing with her.
It's like,
because now she understands the
why
feeling.
her?
Like, there's like a flow to certain people that you dance with.
So I'm experiencing where, because I'm new to like ballroom, and him and I don't connect as strongly as he's connecting really strongly with people at ballroom because they speak almost the same foundational language. So it's kind of played into right into I'm like, well, why are you vibing with them more than me? Like there's a little bit, and I don't try not to be that way, but there's this like underlying, like, I want to vibe with you in that way. Then like I'll dance with Kaylin, and Kaylin and I have more of the bachata salsa, and I'll be like, oh, I had such an amazing dance with Kaylin, and we were vibing. I'm like, well, why don't I vibe with him that way? So
well, it's because we're all individual people.
This weekend.
That was the big discussion this weekend, because I'm also a perfectionist, and I want to dance well in everything I do, and I'm frustrated that I'm not at that level with partner dancing that he is, that people that have started with partner dancing is, and I think I lack some of that connection because I'm used to being a solo dancer. So I've had to be like, okay, it doesn't mean that we're not connected, but it plays onto my insecurities and not feeling enough. And I'm very open, and I communicate about it a lot because I know that it's not him, it's more me. And I always say, this is my trigger. This is what I'm experiencing right now. And I need to get over the fact that, because I want you to vibe with me only, but then I'm vibing, and then I'm like, well, but I vibed with so-and-so better, and I didn't see any problem with that.
I wonder how many dance couples out there where, let's say, they're okay, they're above average dancing with their partner, but they have a competition partner that they dance so well in because they've had just more experience, like there's some people I'll dance with really well. And it's because I'm familiar to their movement, but dancing with them over time. So it's like when we dance with each other, it's a natural flow. And I feel like in the future, but there's like a guy that comes in, like a boyfriend, I'd be like, sorry, we don't dance as flowy as this person, but it's because I've had more time and experience with this other person. So I know their movement already and we flow. Did you guys know it was worth the risk to move from dance partners to like romantic partners then? Or was it just one of those things where it just naturally happened and you're like, oh, we're here?
I think I wanted it, but I was very like, it was one of those like, oh, I'm here. I was treating everyone, because I had started kind of dating and it wasn't really working out. And then when I met him, I was in the mindset of like, I'm just making friends. Like, if something comes out of friends, then great. But not everyone I meet is going to be this amazing romantic connection. So I literally went, I don't care about romantic connections. I'm making friends. I'm getting people's numbers. We're going to meet up for dancing. I asked him for his number first because I was like, hey, I'm just hitting up people, and I go dancing. I went dancing by myself because I needed that. I was single. I was a single mom at the time. And so I reached out to people and made very like, just make friends. So with him, that's what my mentality was. That's why I said I didn't fall in love on the dance floor. I think if I was I'm falling in love, I would have, but I was already like, I'm friend zoning everybody until you pass the friend zone. Like, you got to make it past my friend. I have to like you the next day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because especially if this is someone you're gonna have a long relationship with, why are you even worried about it in the first place? Like, just get to know each other and take your time.
Yeah.
What's the rush?
Friend.
Yeah. Because if they're really that person, then they're going to be around for a while.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is a great question for the ballroom community too, because there are a lot of partnerships that you dance exclusively with one person for many years, and sometimes they have other significant others in the dance community, sometimes they don't. And if you have a good connection with somebody already in the beginning, and then you add 4, 5, 6 years on top of that, woo, right? Like no one is gonna even get close to your connection in terms of what you do together. And then some dance partnerships do go into the romantic, right? They get married and all that, and with mixed success for sure.
I mean, we broke up once. in between, and we ended up at the same salsa place with different people. It was really, I mean, it was tough. It wasn't easy, but when we did break up, it was a very mutual and understand, not mutual, but yes, it was like
You respected each other.
it needed to happen. Someone needed something different, and so it happened. And there was still a lot of love. We didn't break up because we hated each other. There was just like, okay, you need something else, and it's not happening, so this is what needs to happen. And so we ran into each other at a salsa club, and I was on a date, and he was on a date as well. And it was not easy for sure. I was like, whoa. I was like, but we weren't in bad terms, so I was just like, this kind of hurts. I was very honest. I was like, this is not what I want. And I was in a very mature, like, this hurts, but I'm not going to make a big deal out of it because we're in a good place. And so it is really, really difficult. And then to fall back, and I don't know, I just feel like I definitely know that we need it. Like, we need to dance in the world. We can't stop it. So anytime I feel any kind of jealousy, I know that he needs it, and I know that I love it. I need it. And so I put that into perspective, and I go, no matter what happens, no matter what jealousy we feel, ultimately, I feel like, what Kaylin said, like, if people are going to cheat, they're going to cheat. So it's just about communicating and trusting, and I had to be okay to be like, okay, you go dancing without me because I need my downtime, and I don't feel like dancing. But I was giving him that guilt trip, right? Like, oh, you're gonna go without me, and even though I didn't want to go, so I caught myself when I was doing that, and I realized it wasn't very healthy for us because
That's awesome.
he should be able to go dancing without a guilt trip every time. And I had to stop myself because I was triggered. I was cheated. I was experiencing.
You're allowed to feel that, like. Jealousy is a completely normal emotion to have.
I was about to ask, like, even David, when you were dating with someone too, another dancer, for everyone, anyone, have you guys felt jealous watching them dance with someone else? And
definitely.
how do you handle that?
Well, these are
or what advice would you recommend to someone that was going through that?
Get better. No, I'm kidding. That's not that's a joke. I'm joking. No, I'm kidding.
If seeing your partner dance with somebody else like brings something up in you that's worth acknowledging, and it could be triggering you in a certain way, like, you don't have to dismiss it and feel ashamed that you're like jealous. But it also doesn't mean that they can't dance with other people now. So addressing it and feeling it and acknowledging it, while also like communicating to them maybe later that it brought something up. And if you create that space to talk about it, and because the truth is what it is, it's a sign of like an unmet need, or a lot of times what I remember was like, well, I want to do that with them. And, but really all that means is you're wanting to just share that joy with them, and you're watching them have that with somebody else. So it's just like communicating, asking what you want.
Yeah. And I think it's really important that you also communicate when you're having joy with the person that you're with. Like, they don't know what you're thinking and unless you tell them. You can't assume that people just know, you know what I mean? And for me, like, this is something that I'm actively in the process of trying to commit as habit, is like having those moments and being like, you have those moments where you're with your person, you're just like, yo, you're kind of cool. Like, I like hanging out with you. You know what I mean? Like communicate that, like say that, right? Put that out there, because like maybe they don't know what you're feeling. You have all these
positive affirmation is really important.
That part, like you have the puppy dog eyes and the I don't know, the rainbows and all, whatever. The feel good feelings are feeling good, right? But like they might look at you and they're like, you got gas, or like, what's going on? Right? They don't know. So you need to like let them know, like, hey.
Perfect.
But like, like let them know that. And I think that kind of that helps. I won't say it helps deter the jealousy per se, but I'll say that it definitely, like, oh yeah, like it affirms the person, like, oh, they like me, okay, cool, like, like, yeah.
A lot of times that's all someone needs, is that reaffirmation. Like, like what helped when I would see my ex dancing with other people, it brought stuff up, but what would draw me back is remembering like that they had genuine feelings for me, and that I respected and trusted them, and that, like, if like my worst fear was that they fell in love with somebody else while they were dancing with them, I'm sure they'd at least tell me, and then we could deal with that at that point. But until then, maybe I just don't worry about that. And
we
assume
have
that it's just a regular dance.
it's everything. It's everything we've been talking about because I've had the infidelity thing, and so I have the trust issues. I trust him, but those feelings come up, and like
Right,
I always
which is
tell him,
normal.
it's not you, it's just definitely the triggers
It
I'm
is.
going through.
Yeah.
And so he's really good at like affirming me, and like, he started doing this thing where, right before we go in, he says, "You're my number one."
Oh,
And I'm like, yes. And it's just like, it's for me, it's all I need to hear
we need
from
that, like that.
to be like,
Yeah.
yes, I am. I walk in there, I'm like, but I need it. I need that affirmation. I wish I didn't sometimes, but it's what I'm dealing with and I need it. So he's really good at giving it to me. And that's
That's a
why it
good tip.
works.
That's a good tip in case someone else, another couple hears and they're like, they actually realize, oh, maybe that's all I actually need, a little reassurance.
A lot of times, yeah, that's all people need. It's just to know that like we're still good, we're on the same page, and that like it creates safety. That's what people are usually looking for.
Yeah.
Is that trust and the safety of like nothing's changed basically.
Yeah. And then not getting defensive, because I think
That
Yes.
the natural instinct is someone gets triggered and says, I don't like that you danced with that person. Well, you think, and then automatically you start getting defensive. And when you don't listen, it's like you have to speak in I statements. Like, I feel uncomfortable when you get so close to that person. That way it just made me uncomfortable. I want to be the only one that you get that close with, right? And I've had those conversations where I'm like, that was really close. Maybe it's good that I don't watch it. Maybe it's good when I'm distracted and dancing
Right.
with other people. Or randomly I'll catch a dance and be like, that was really close. And it triggers that. Yeah, it's like that. Are you feeling something else? It triggers an insecurity, and
It's all an act. It's all an act.
That's a good point though that you brought up though, like you noticing it, because I remember times where it's like, okay, I actually think I'm paying too much attention to this, and that's because I'm not dancing with other people, and I'm walking. So I would be like, okay, I just need to focus on these other dances I'm having, and that usually relaxed me, and
that helps.
I wasn't
Reset.
right.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah.
you're stuck there and you're not dancing with someone, and there's no one else to ask, but they're dancing, so you have to watch them. All the thoughts come in, and
Yeah. And he knows, like if we're like in the ballroom world, I'm like, if a salsa, bachata, merengue, something that I really love, that is my jam, I'm like, you need to find me. I'm your only bachata, like, and so he knows, like, oh, I gotta go find her. It's a merengue song. She wants to dance with me. So there's little like, anything else, go for it. But I'm like, please find me for the songs that that I'm going to love to dance with you. Like, I want to share those with you.
that's part of your connection though, is like, because like those songs, like you two understand that when it comes on, and and that's part of, there's an intimacy in that, which is awesome.
It's also to differentiate yourself. Like, so if you're dancing with everyone and you come in as a couple, it's like, how do you maintain that I'm your special? I'm the special one. Like, you're gonna connect, you're gonna vibe with lots of people, but how am I special in this world where I don't see you as much? So we can easily not dance with each other the whole time, right? Easily. So in that world, we just know, like, just come find me for some dance, because it's so easy. We see each other all the time. So sometimes the appeal is, I want to dance with other energies. So it's nice to be like, okay, just say me that. We don't have to dance all the time. Just save me the save me the Latin rhythms, or save me the tango sounds. So, and we've been doing this for quite some time now. So it's fine. It's communicating. It's finding those special things, and then it's letting him do his thing when he wants. I go dancing if I want by myself. It's not, I always say, you're gonna love someone, you really do have to let them go. And that's always been my motto, my whole entire relationship. I'm gonna love you, but I'm gonna let you go if you need to go. And not like the suffocating, like, oh no, you need to be by me, you need to only love me. And so
You guys have an
every time I start
interdependent
gripping, I'm
relationship
like, oh.
versus like that codependent. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And letting go and trusting, and trust, and having that
trust
trust.
it.
Yeah.
And not blaming him for things that are my things, my issues.
Dancing with different partners trains you to be able to adapt to different energies and different people.
Yes.
And it just makes you such a better dancer, being able to,
And for couples,
to compromise on the spot with a new person.
Yeah.
It's building
every
your
single
relational
dance you're
intelligence
compromising
by
with them, right?
interacting with so
Meet
many
me in the
people.
middle somewhere.
What are ways you suggest someone go about if they're interested in someone, but they don't want to make it uncomfortable for the other person if they want to ask him out?
Like be direct, but
That's all
don't
you have to
be
do.
I'd say like be direct, be clear, but also like don't make it. You don't have to make it like this whole big like wild crazy thing. It's like, oh, like is there interest here? Check yes, no, no. Okay, cool. Yes, okay, cool. Like if you don't make it weird, it doesn't have to be weird. You know, if you don't make it something look, I used to work at a youth camp, and I can't tell you like the fact that we had in our onboarding, in our training, we had the pamphlet that would have all these different things of like what to do and what not to do. One of them was like, please don't write love letters to your coworkers. It's weird. And I was like, I'm like, the fact that we had to include that in the language, you know what I mean? I'm like, maybe you ask them right after work hours if they like, I don't know, you like coffee, do you like tea, do you like boba? I'm interested. I'd like to get to know you. Yes, no, no. You're lactose intolerant. Cool. Just that's it, right? It doesn't have to be more. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be more. You know. So just be clear, be simple.
And
That's where I
knowing
see
what
the
you
friend
want
thing.
will help a lot because you can
That's
subtly ask questions that are deal breakers and
Mhm.
like not make it about interrogating them, but you're just talking and having a conversation about it. And then they might bring it up and then you're like, oh, I don't like that, or oh, I do like that. And that makes me more interested in them.
Mhm. Like they find out your house Gryffindor, and that's a deal breaker. You're like, okay,
Right.
cool. Well, it's the best house, so bye. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Right.
it's one of those things.
Or you might just be talking with them and you're having that really strong connection. And then eventually they're like, oh, and my partner. And then now you know that they are already dating somebody
Yeah.
versus just being like, hey, I want to like, date. Like, what's the thing to say to get them to date me? It's like, well, you might need to know more about them first before you ask that question.
I would say make friends. The whole friend zoning
Yes.
thing. I mean, people make fun of it. I'm like, it's not like you're friend
It's
zoning.
made up.
Yes, you kind of are. Just go in there, make friends, like
Mhm.
fall in love with people as friends.
Yeah.
And the one that you like, if you're not knowing it right away, just keep meeting up with them in the dance community. And then you start saying, hey, let's go to Denny's after, or little by little, someone will start lingering a little bit more, and
Don't make
just
assumptions and approach with curiosity.
let's just hang out.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'm straight out like, you're really cool, we should hang out.
Right. Why not?
People are afraid to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you're really cool. Like, even if you like them, you're not gonna be like, I really like you. Do you want to do you're really cool. I really want to get to know you more. We should talk.
And
Coffee.
look, I've had a lot of social anxiety, so I also get it. It can be hard to like, but I've taught myself it's like you just talk with people, and dance has helped a lot with it too.
So on the receiving end, what are gentle ways how someone can say no if they're not interested?
Walk away.
It's like just no words, just turn and leave. Just
Say thank you. And
I'm telling you.
I mean, honestly, if it's in a dance, if someone says something you don't like, just leave, especially in the dance community.
Well, if someone hits on you or wants more, I usually can tell, and so I'm very like, if I really like you, I will let you know. I'm very direct.
Yeah.
It won't be an
People don't
accident. Yeah.
People don't. Yeah, it's just being direct. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you're really beautiful. Can I have your number? Oh, I'm sorry. I have a fiance, but thank you. You're so kind. Kind of like, oh, that's really nice, but no. You try not to make them feel bad for asking, unless they're aggressive. I had a guy be aggressive once, and he's like, if you don't dance with me now, I'm like, oh, bye. I don't want to dance with you.
Yeah.
I said bye.
Yeah.
It's like,
I had
go away.
Yeah. So my one of my best guy friends said, like, when they say, "Oh, can I have your number?" You're like, "Well, here's my Instagram." That's one way to say it. And then and I did ask him what's like a way to where someone's turned you down, but it's actually direct but still tactful. And he said he's been told like, "Oh, well, thanks for asking," or "I appreciate you for asking, but I'm not looking for anything right now." And he's like, "Okay." So
Yeah. It's just being direct. And it's hard. It's hard to be direct because you feel bad. You don't want to turn down the other person. I think when it gets bad is someone is too nice to speak up and say how they really feel. And that's when someone else is like, oh, they're being nice because they like me. And that other person, especially with females, that's why I said the female energy, we have to be very direct. Because if you're not direct, you're nice. Some guys do take your kindness as, oh, she likes me. And I'm like, no, I'm just being nice. It's just a nice thing to do.
I wanted to point out that difference because Kaylin mentioned how he felt comfortable just saying no directly if it ever gets that way. And I've noticed more with women, they are usually not comfortable enough doing that. Like just outright saying no. I've heard of them saying they'll like pull away or just not dance with that person.
Yeah. Yep.
And I understand. It's like there's a lot of reasons why they don't feel safe enough to just outright be like, please don't do that. But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
That part.
Some people aren't tactful. Some people are
They're
coming
not.
on aggressively. They don't read the signs. Because even when I've said, if I like you, I'll let you know. I had a friend like talking to everybody else. Does she like me? Does she like me? Let me walk you to your car. And I was like, this guy does not get the hint.
Right. And
like or the direct. I don't know what to do. He's not getting the hint or the direct. So some people just won't buy. But I mean,
yeah.
And that's where you go back to what David said. Just walk away.
Right.
Right.
But that's why you have to do that sometimes, because it's easy for people to just be like, oh, I just say no or turn them down, but that doesn't always work. Some men won't listen. And you just
I gotta go to the bathroom.
You don't owe them anything.
The bathroom.
You sneak out the bathroom.
That too, yeah. Or even better.
Actually, that's a really good one. I have to go to the restroom.
Well, what can also help is if there's someone you like to dance with, and you just go grab them.
Yeah.
And then now it's like there's this reason to cut off the conversation.
David, when you said that, I was like, I can see everyone being taken up, and you're like, I can't find someone to.
That's when you go downstairs.
I give you permission to break up any of my dances and be like, we're gonna do a three-way dance.
Actually, that's
It's like I grab a girl and she's like, but I don't lead. I'm like, I don't care.
No, that's real. That's real.
That is real. I mean, as females, we should be comfortable to be like, okay, let me go. Even if we're not comfortable leading, just going to another girl and be like, hey, dance with me.
Yeah.
So making me uncomfortable a little bit. But I find like even telling that person, hey, you're making me a little uncomfortable. I mean, I think you need to back away a little bit.
Yeah.
Kaylin told me that you guys have like a dance app. Peter and Arhelia, what is it called? And can you tell more about that?
Well, it's a dance app. It's called dancehub.dance. And the purpose of it is to act as a marketplace or like a farmer's market for dance professionals to kind of show, as teachers to show themselves, or, the professionals. And so it's a common place for new students to come and find all the classes and teachers that they would need to be successful.
So you can just connect with socials and events and dance partners and dance studios. And it's Tuesday night, I want to go bachata. What are all the places? I just like that one place where you can go and be like, you're in Philly and you're like, I need to go bachata dancing. Where's the Philly spots? And so that, right now you have to like really scout, like go through the whole internet and be like, is this still working? Is this still a good place? How good is it? So
oh yeah, that's really annoying. Like,
yeah,
that would help.
It's too much work.
The place is like shut down. It's not actually there. It's like a
Facebook
warehouse
and
now.
Google are terrible.
Like,
It's terrible. That's really terrible. Yeah, so there's definitely a need for a centralized marketplace for people to find whatever it is that they're looking for, dance related, of course.
It's to bring more people to the community.
Well, this was a super juicy episode. So thank you all for being here.
Happy to be here.
If you enjoyed the super fun episode, please share it with a friend and give us a follow and 5-star rating on Apple and Spotify. You can check us out on social media at Fusion Dance Podcast. Also, we've included an awesome resource of all the places to go social dancing in LA, as well as how to connect with Arhelia, David, and Peter. Those will be all included down below in the show notes. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.